Continuing with the issue regarding religion and God, one of the things that is very pertinent to life today is the relevance of religion and the relevance of the concept of God. And I probably say the concept because to date we have only been able to hear what the holy books of the different religions have to say about the concept of God. And for the past 2,000 or more years, it is man who have spoken of God rather than gods speaking for themselves. So that, in my view, that also begs the question as to whether man has in fact created God in his own image as opposed to God creating man in his own image. Indeed, the fact that you have different religions originating in different societies by different people of different ethnicities could itself lend some credence to the idea that it is man who create God in his own image rather than the other way around. Anyway, the issue for me today is that of the relevance of religion and or of God in today's contemporary societies. It seems to me that religion could be relevant, and in fact, religion could have more relevance as opposed to the concept of God. That is, if someone was to see religion without a God as something of value. In my view, it really is, because I think some religions will say they are a way of life. So it doesn't have to be seen strictly as being a way of life based on the concept of God. After all, in the absence of the gods or God speaking for him or herself, as opposed to man always saying what, putting the words in God's mouth, if you like, suggests that it is quite feasible that you could have a religion without it having to be formed around the concept of a God. As society evolves, which is what it is really doing, one might assume that with this continuing increasing human intellectual development, the advancement in his or her knowledge of both the internal and the external environment within which we find ourselves, and us having this greater capacity to be able to exercise more control over the environment within which we live, that the importance of religion and or the concept of God should decrease accordingly. Now, there is some evidence to suggest that this is not quite so, although it might be accurate to conclude that in the more technologically and enlightened, technologically advanced and enlightened societies, religion has become more a matter of personal belief. People saying, this is what I believe, as opposed to the wider society saying, this is what we as a society believe pertaining to religion and pertaining to the concept of God. Um, Rather than the way of life, that it remains in the less developed societies, where their history and their mindset um, continue to be major obstacles to those societies embracing the more enlightened and humanistic philosophy guiding the more advanced societies. We can see this in countries in Africa, countries in Asia, countries in Latin America and in South America, where religion seems to remain a powerful binding agent within society. In fact, except for the more orthodox devotees of the religions such as Islam, Judaism, Sikhism, and Catholicism, the debate has effectively moved on from being about religion per se to that of whether or not one believe in God. Consequently, the importance of religion and its purpose is more questionable in the countries of the north or northern hemisphere, both geographically and in terms of wealth, than it is in the countries of the southern hemisphere. Indeed, one could argue that all things being equal, there will be less observance of orthodox religious doctrines and belief in God um, than there is in the more poverty endemic and religious orthodoxy dominated societies. What we have in the northern hemisphere today is the re-emergence of the use of Christianity, albeit what has been proffered as Christian values, in inverted commas, to defend the West against what could be seen as a resurgent expansion of Islam into Europe and in America, as you have more people of Orthodox Islamic beliefs moving into the more advanced North, still holding on strongly to their religion, whereas the Christian West has loosened its hold, or the Christianity has loosened its hold on the populace as a whole. Of course, this is not really or only an, in inverted comma, Islamophobic defensive stance against Muslims. It is just that having set themselves free from religious oppression, people in the West do not want to risk being returned to that unfree state again. and is genuinely fearful that Islamic orthodoxy could pose the threat of them having to go back down that very dark and oppressive and unlightened road again. So again, I will end this video on that point. Thank you for listening.